I'm your host, Jessie Pierre, and in this segment of Faces of Torrance, we are getting up close and personal with Torrance Fire Chief Martin Serna. He's been with the department since 1993, starting out as a student in the Fire Academy. Since then, he's taken on the role as a firefighter, engineer, captain, battalion chief, and so much more. And he's also the first black fire chief to serve the city of Torrance. Family, friends, work, and community are some of the words Torrance Fire Chief Martin Serna has written on the wall in his office. They are the first words he sees in the morning at the start of his shift, and they are the words he lives by.
Really, it's just trying to find balance. I'm a huge proponent of balance. You know, I leave those as a reminder up there on the need to have balances in your life. My parents no longer with us, but they really set the value for us as kids on earning people's respect, working hard, and being appreciative of all the things that we have in our lives, and always look for opportunities to give back to those that are less fortunate. My faith is where I draw a lot of my direction, you know, especially from the Catholic perspective. It's, you know, giving back and looking for opportunities to help others.
Serna, who is Mexican and Puerto Rican, thanks his parents for building a strong foundation for him and his siblings. He quickly learned the importance of hard work and discovered his passions at a very young age.
I grew up in the city of Norwalk. You know, as a child, there was a fire down the street. I think I was around 8 or 9 years old. And I remember walking up the street, and fire truck shows up, fire engine shows up, and they pull out my friend's grandmother at the time. And from that point forward, I said, that's what I want to do with my life. At the time, one of the popular shows was Emergency 51, Squad 51. It's a kind of a show that highlighted the value of the paramedic program in LA County. So every kid watched it at the time, and looking at all the calls that would go on and the excitement of the opportunity of saving people's lives and helping people, you know, that was one of my favorite shows, and that maybe kind of planted that seed. And from that time forward, that's kind of where I just continue down that process. And as I transitioned to adulthood, even as a kid, I really enjoyed helping people. And I recognized as I did my research that this profession really does help people.
Do you remember like your first day at the Fire Academy?
Oh yeah, like yesterday.
Yeah?
Yeah, the first day of the fire, you know, I can share back a little bit. You know, this is a very competitive job, and if you're pursuing a dream, as you are, as anyone else here, we're always pursuing a dream, but I remember I got that first call, the opportunity to work for the city of Torrance. It was Chief Thompson at the time. He was a battalion chief, now retired. Left the voicemail and saying, hey, are you interested in taking a position? You know, this is Chief Thompson. Are you interested in taking a position with the city of Torrance on the fire department? You know, and I remember listening to that voicemail and jumping like I just hit the lottery, because I believe I did. You know, worked so hard to achieve a goal, and actually it's there now in front of me. So the excitement of that first day of the academy, and I share with the group that we have 9 recruits right now at Station 2, and I shared with the El Camino Fire Academy back in December. You know, a little envious because they're on the front side of their career, and the things they'll see and experience through that career, or this career, is going to be so rewarding.
How was the training?
I enjoyed it.
Challenge.
It's a challenge. I enjoyed it. You know, I think anybody's attracted to this type of profession or this line of work, you're attracted to that kind of excitement. I thrive on it, miss it. You know, my current position doesn't allow me to get out there as much as I would like, and no, I thrive in that type of environment. You know, and I can remember my first, I won't call significant call. You know, I stood at El Toro at the time, and it was for a gunshot wound. And a very tragic situation where a gentleman had snuck onto the Marine base there and shot his wife, the mother of his kids at the time. We responded on her, Sergeant House. You know, I still remember the smell of the gunpowder in the air, trying to save her life. Unfortunately, we weren't successful, but it was definitely an impactful call. So you recognize it's an automated voice, so that's an auto dispatch center. So what we do is we have the address, so it says Engine 91, Rescue 91, difficulty breathing, gives the address to the location, and then we're keeping track of our good timing.
Is there any position that you miss the most?
Paramedic.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it gave me the opportunity to interact with my patients. And I really enjoyed, and I share with all our folks, that's probably the most rewarding time of my career. Not to say any other positions were not rewarding, but it really was the opportunity when I sat in the back of the ambulance and provided patient care. And I'm not saying the call I mentioned earlier, or the cardiac arrest. It was really just the opportunity just to have a conversation like you and I are having with my patients. You got to meet some extraordinary people and really understand the culture and the DNA of the citizens of Torrance. I've talked to veterans from World War I, World War II, talked to a gentleman over here at New Horizons who flew bombing missions as a 19-year-old over Tokyo.
Wow.
And so that's what I really do miss.
Now present to you your badge signifying your appointment as fire chief. Congratulations.
Was it a hard decision to go into the office?
Yeah, you get into this profession not wanting to sit behind a desk. That's what I joke. I said I got into this to go on Big Red and go on emergencies and give back to the community on that side of the business. I recognized that to provide impact and change and bring forward what I believe is what the organization needs. I believe I had a skill set that was necessary, and it's not about me. It's not about Martin Serna. It's really about providing what's best for the organization and the team and the community. And I thought my skill sets at this level was where I needed to be.
Fire chief is not the only title Serna holds. He is also a devoted husband and a father to 4 children.
Got married in 1996. My wife sat next to me in high school in biology class. We didn't date at the time, but we came back together shortly after I got hired with the El Toro Fire Department, and she went to UCLA. She's actually a nurse. We just connected and been together ever since.
You always wanted to get married and have kids?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a family guy, so that's kind of important to me. Family is the essence of life. That's really what's the most important thing in my perspective. Relationships and family to me is primary number one.
I see the coach.
Yes, I'm coaching my son's basketball team right now. I really enjoy coaching that age. My daughter just finished her last basketball season at her high school. So life really is at home, coaching, getting involved in our church, and just trying to find the opportunity to spend time with the busy and chaotic family that we have.
Did you ever think of working in any other city or so forth, or what kept you here?
It's a great community. I mean, you want to talk about a well-balanced city. I mean, that's kind of our logo, right? Balanced city. But you look at the support that the community provides its public servants, just phenomenal. Looking to other agencies, I don't think going to another agency, you're not going to have again, right now there's only 5 departments that can place themselves in our category, which is a Class 1 fire department and now accredited agency. 5 out of 3,000. Where's the desire to go look for other opportunities when you already work for an elite department?
When you are looking at a recruit, what makes the criteria for a person who would be a good candidate?
Yeah, that's a good question. But we really looking for, when I'm looking for somebody, it's really who has a servant's heart, who has the passion to serve others. There's characteristics that we're looking for, and what I share with a lot of our folks, and we have a profession where some people trust their most treasured possession to a complete stranger. I'm going to take a leap of faith that you're probably your parents' most treasured possession, right? So if you get an accident right here at Carson and Crenshaw, you don't get to decide who shows up. So we want to make sure we have the people with the right ethics, character, integrity, the ability to perform. So it's up to me to make sure that we have the right people, because you get to decide whether you're going to work for City Cable or City of Torrance. You get to decide whether you're going to go to this doctor, that doctor. But when it comes to an emergency situation, you don't get to decide. You dial the 3 numbers and a complete stranger is going to show up. and the expectation from the community and yourself, your parents, that the person's there is well trained with a caring heart, a servant's heart, that it's going to make the pain go away. So when we're recruiting and I'm interviewing, I'm making sure that those candidates have those characteristics. So Nikki was our first woman firefighter, female firefighter that we hired.
Oh, wow.
Paul Sawai was our first Japanese, and I was the first person of color. Actually, no, second, because we had Charlie Watson. So anyway, man came in and wanted some models and for a puzzle, and
That's cool. I love that.
it went nationwide.
So how many women do you have now?
2. You know, we want more women in the fire service. It's definitely way underrepresented. I believe it's one of the professions, I want to say that we're probably at 5%, if not less, women in the fire service. It's a challenge for the fire service to attract women as well as minorities. So what we've done is we're trying to have a more focused recruitment, if you want to call it that, and utilize what we've established earlier, like a couple years ago, our Grow Our Own program, and maybe exposing and providing opportunity for individuals that may not have been interested in this profession, you know, women who historically haven't been interested in the fire service. This gives us that opportunity for us to expose them to a phenomenal opportunity. Having a connection to the African American community is extremely important, especially when there's not too many fire chiefs that have my complexion. So recognizing being a role model. So I'm kind of a all over type of background. It's kind of kind of America, right? Nowadays. You know.
So how do you feel about being, well, the first African American, black Torrance chief here for Torrance?
I knew you would ask that question, but it's not been the only time that's been asked. You know, the sad part is we still have to ask that question. You know, because at some point it would be nice just to be asked the question, how do you feel about just being a chief? Right? But there's, you know, in today's world, still having first is, you know, and I'm thinking I reflect back on my childhood and thinking that we would be well past some of the stereotypes or the first person in certain positions. We would be past that in at least in my lifetime. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to occur. I think we'll still have some of that, you know, for a wide range of reasons. So how do I feel about it? You know, a little sad that I'm the first, but I'm proud of being able to achieve that. I know I know my kids and my family recognize that. I know the community does. You know, to be that person, especially in the fire service and in these positions, to be a positive role model. And so I feel fortunate. You know, but I look forward to the day where that question is no longer answered in this country.
And Serna is always looking for ways to improve.
Adding the chaplain was an important part for us. As I mentioned, it's about providing support for our members, especially since it's a high-stress profession. We do have professional help with doctors, psychologists. But we thought providing a chaplain from a spiritual perspective was incredibly important to provide that level of support for our members. We've been looking at, we've been on 14,000 calls, 15,000 calls, as I mentioned earlier, but we never really looked to see, we need to have downward trends, and where can we provide opportunities to have less calls. You don't call us, that's a good thing, right? So when you call 911, so an example of that, last year we had a fall prevention program. So when we looked at our data, we recognized that one of our number one call, it was 10% of our calls, not the number one, was falls in our elderly community. So we said, hey, how can we provide some education to our elderly community so they can prevent some falls? I had the opportunity to go to a seminar out in, I think it was Denver, Colorado, back in 1995. And one of the classes that I sat in on spoke about falls in the elderly community, 65 and older. And they said if they had a debilitating injury, broken leg, hip, in less than a year, it becomes fatal. So if we had an opportunity to go out and provide some education and share with our elderly community, our senior community, said maybe you don't need that throw rug in your bathroom when you get out of the shower. Maybe you can wear slippers. So we were really aggressive with it. We partnered up with our city librarian, who was a great resource for us, and a nonprofit organization, and we provided that education to our community, and we started seeing a reduction in falls, which is a good thing.